Hello everybody, welcome back to the video lecture series on microprocessors and microcontrollers. In this today's lecture, lecture number 24, we'll be talking about the 8051 architecture. We shall start our this particular lecture by having a brief recap of what we have seen in our previous class. That was an overview of 8051 microcontroller, and continuing to that one, we'll be talking about the architecture of 8051, and very briefly towards the end of this lecture, we will check out the pin diagram of 8051 microcontroller. So let us start. So as I said, we will be talking about brief overview of a microcontrollers, specifically a brief overview of a microcontroller 8051. We shall start that one by comparing the microprocessor with the microcontroller. As in the unit 1, we have checked out about the microprocessor 8086 in complete details. We must see how exactly this microcontroller is different from that of the microprocessor's device. So here in a microprocessor, we know that it's a single CPU standalone IC will be there, which has only ALU and the control unit that in that one, and remaining all the other peripherals has to be interfaced externally to work that one as a complete system. Whereas regarding the same point in microcontroller 8051, these all peripherals, that is memories, input output ports, timers, serial communications port will be all available on a single chip. In microprocessor, the designer has a flexibility of choosing the memory and IO ports requirement as in their system and select that memory and IO devices accordingly. And due to this thing, as it is very versatile and it will be very expensive also, and it is meant for to be used for general purpose. Whereas when microcontroller, as it has a limited memory, limited IO ports on chip inbuilt, and obviously we can extend that one in many of the microcontrollers, but inbuilt the memory and IO ports what we'll be having, that will be very limited due to this, and also it is meant for working a particular application, specified applications only. So due to these all reasons, we say that the microcontroller is a type of a single purpose, or sometime a set of purposes only it is used, and the applications oriented design of the microcontroller will be done, unlike the microprocessor, which is very general in nature. And the effective cost about the microcontroller, as it will be designed for a specific task to be done, and in the bulk production its cost will become very less. An overview of 8051 microcontroller we have seen in the last class. A definition of a microcontroller. Here, microcontroller is a compact integrated circuit. It is designed to be governing a specific type of operation in an embedded system. Okay, it is meant for doing a particular task or set of tasks only, very efficiently. Okay. Here we can see that all these different devices which were has to be interfaced separately in the 8086 system. Here they have all everything into inbuilt on a common IC. That the CPU will be there, RAM and ROM memories will be there, IO ports will be there, timers will be there, serial communications there. Many of the microcontrollers will have inbuilt ADCs also on it, but our 8051 does not have that inbuilt ADC. But always other microcontrollers have it. Then we have seen the important criteria to be considered before choosing a microcontroller for any particular project, because all sort of different microcontrollers are available in the market. Which one to be chosen for our project is always a big question in our the designer's mind. So here are the quick guide. 3 points are there which we can consider for selecting and choosing a microcontroller of our choice for our particular process. So they are that means we have to select a device which matches and suits to best to the requirement needs of our project first. So that will be the main criterion. Also the cost will also be another important criteria. Along with that one, the second important criteria has to be satisfied, that the software development tools for regarding that particular microcontroller of our choice, the one which we are selecting, should be available in the market freely, such that when you are working with it, you should not worry about the different aspects that designing and on a whole upon a compiler and assembler by yourself. It should be available in the market such that you can very easily use them for doing your projects properly. Third point is that it should be widely available in the market, the resources related to our microcontroller which we have selected. Otherwise, if the project using our microcontroller, the microcontroller goes fail or the hardware damages, another one, if it is not available in the market, the whole project design has to be rearranged according to the new microcontroller. So always plan such that your microcontroller which you are selecting, it is widely available in the market for any future upgradations of your choice. Here, next we have seen the features of 8051. We know that the 8051 microcontroller is an 8-bit CPU. It works with the 8-bit of data at a time. Okay, and it has an extensive Boolean operations. That means all the operations carried out in the 8051 are mostly Boolean operations. That means direct bit-wise operations you can do it. Like many of the pins, especially all the 4 ports of 8051, the input-output ports, port 0, 1, 2, and 3. They are all bit manipulated. That means every individual bit you can manipulate, make it input pin or an output pin as per your requirement. Okay, it has a memory addressing capability of 64 kilobytes, though, but it has inbuilt only a 4 kilobytes of ROM memory and 128 bytes of RAM memory. And as I talked about the ports, IO ports, it has 4 IO ports, each one having 8 lines, so total 32 bidirectional and individually addressable IO lines are there on this particular 8051. There are two 16-bit timer counter registers. They are named as timer counter. You can use them as a timer or you can use them as a counter. The name of the registers are timer 0 and timer 1. In 8051, we are having 2 of them, each one of 16-bit size. And in 8051, we have a full duplex UART type of a serial communication port. And full duplex UART means it has a dedicated line for transmitting of the data serially, and also a dedicated line for receiving the data serially back onto the microcontroller 8051. There are 6 sources of the interrupts in 8051, and 5 of them are vectored. Actually, one source, that is your reset, is not vectored. We'll talk about that interrupts in detail in our coming classes. Next thing is has an on-chip oscillator also. 8051 contains an on-chip oscillator. You do not require to have an external oscillator, but always there is a choice that if you want to use an external crystal oscillator of your choice of a particular frequency, you can always connect that one externally. Okay. Next is this block diagram we have seen in our last class regarding the 8051 microcontroller. Here we have a CPU and oscillator is there inside that one, and external oscillator, crystal oscillator, you can connect it if you require. Okay. And then we have an interrupt controller block which has 5 interrupt sources. These 5 interrupt sources, what they are in detail, we will check it as we progress and see the interrupt topic of 8051. But very briefly, I can tell you them. They are the external 0 interrupt, external 1 interrupt, timer 0 interrupt, timer 1 interrupt, and one last one is a serial communication interrupt. Okay, it can be again transmission or a reception interrupt. And we have a 4 KB of ROM, 128 bytes of RAM. And there are 2 timers, timer 0 and timer 1 onto this 8051 IC. We have a serial port of full duplex serial port which contains a transmission and reception separate channels. Individual independent transmission channel is there and reception channel is there on the 8051 microcontroller. We have 4 IO ports. You can see they are bidirectional. And one important thing about this IO ports is that they are bit addressable. Every single pin on these ports can be addressed bitwise separately. You can make a pin, input pin or output pin as per your choice. We have inbuilt bus controller. Unlike in 8086 system, when the 8086 was used in maximum mode, we need to have an external bus controller. Here we do not require an external bus controller. It has inbuilt a bus control system into itself. All this module important to be available in a device where the computing has to be done, all available on the 8051 microcontroller. So that's why we many times call this microcontroller as a microcomputer. Let us now continue discussing the architecture diagram of 8051 microcontroller. In today's session, now we will exactly see the architecture diagram of 8051. What all the different modules are there inside the 8051 microcontroller, apart from having a processor. That all we will be checking out in our this class. So as you can see here in this particular diagram, on this side of mine, you find this ALU is there, which performs all the arithmetic and logical operations in the 8051 microcontroller. And we are having 2 of the general purpose registers indicated as A register, accumulator here, and a B register. Now, anyhow, apart from these 2 registers, we have a lot more general purpose registers available in 8051, but they all reside into our RAM side. Or we can say sometimes we can call that one as another extra set of registers, general purpose registers, which resides in the RAM. Apart from that 128 byte of RAM, what we have it, another 128 byte of RAM is there, in which all we are having special function registers, including these general purpose registers. And apart from that, here on this side, you can check it out. We are having that 4 IO ports, port 0, port 1, port 2, port 3. For each of this port, corresponding latch and a buffer register will be there in this one. A latch 8-bit size and a buffer of 8-bit size will be attached to each of the ports, such that whenever the port operations are going on, the data transactions are going on in the port, data coming in and going out will be taken care of in this buffer. Buffer will be acting as a moderator for the data communications here. Latches are available here for to storing the address of the port particularly. Whenever a controller in that processing unit of a controller wants to access a data at a certain port, it will send the address of that particular port onto that IO ports, and that corresponding latch will store the address of that particular port, such that meanwhile the transaction of the data is going on, that whole process, that port is activated and remains active till the data transactions are completed. Here we are having this interrupt timer and serial port and also the memory control block. One interesting thing about this block is that you have to notice that one signal coming out or signals coming out from here are given trigger to the port 3. So this connection we have to check in detail while talking about the pin diagram of 8051. Say that one will tell you the special functions of the port 3. So the special functions of the port 3 will be associated with this interrupt timers and serial communications and memory control blocks. We will checking that one in detail as we will be talking about the port 3 special functions. Anyhow, apart from this ALU, accumulator register B, two temporary registers are available. As we have seen, the ALU has to be accessing the data, operating the data, ALU operations has to be performed. These temporary registers will contain the data which has to be operated. And immediate things coming out of the ALU, which is being, the signal is being connected to one particular block. This block is a program status word. This program status word is similar to that of the flag register in 8086. We have seen the flag register in 8086. That too was arranged in a way that just immediately after the ALU it was connected, the outcomes are ALU will be affecting that flag. Here also the program status word is a sort of a kind of a flag only. About this program status word also we will discuss in elaborated way. We have a complete control unit. Okay, this is a CU which takes care about all the controlling signals for all the different modules of the 8051. And here it is a RAM. About the RAM, it is that we have 128 byte of data RAM. Apart from that one, another 128 byte of space is there, which is allocated to the different registers, the special function register, the stack memory, and all. We will check that particular thing while talking about the memory organization in 8051. Here we have an instruction register. This instruction register job is to hold the instructions to be executed, and the address of these instructions which has to be executed next will always be pointed by this program counter. This program counter you can take and it is similar to that of an instruction pointer available in 8086. The job of the instruction pointer and this program counter is same, that they have to store the, or they have to point to the address of the next instruction to be executed. Okay. Here another thing is that the stack pointer is available. The stack pointer will be used for pointing the stack data in the stack memory. Okay. About this stack in 8051 is just similar to that of 8086, but a little bit different in a way that there in 8086 the stack was top bottom, and here it is bottom top. It will be inverted. About that one stack operations we will see while discussing that memory organization in the 8051. Anyhow, here we have that ROM, 4 kilobytes of ROM available in this 8051. That block is available here. Obviously, when the memory is here, the memory address generator or memory address register will be available here. Program memory address register will point to the program instructions which are there in the program memory, that is ROM, and similarly we'll be having an RAM address register which will be pointing to the RAM addresses which generally has a data on it. So data address generator, data address register will be there. This RAM is also called as a data address register, and that points to the data stored in the RAM memory. So that is all about this particular architecture block diagram here. I can show you another diagram, the similar one, but with a different look, which you generally find in most of the text regarding this particular subject. So here, most of the things are same as you already seen about that one. ALU is here, that temporary registers are here, and here ACC is the accumulator register. We have register B at this side, RAM address generator is here, RAM memory is there, ports. In the previous diagram, the ports were all indicated at one side, that was on the right side, but here it shows resembles to the pin diagram where your port 0 and port 2 are at one side, and port 1 and port 3 are at the opposite side of these two ports. So port 0 is here, port 0 latch, okay, port 2 latch, and these port drivers are actually, you can say that these are the buffers which stores or moderates the data communication on this particular ports. Okay, you will be having a stack pointer. As usual, stack pointer is there, and that interrupt timers and serial block. These all the blocks are embedded into this one packet. But obviously, when you open this one, there will be two registers: timer 0, timer 1. Two more registers for controlling the mode and controlling the actions of the timers. Tmod or tcon will be there. Serial communication port will be there in this one, and also a serial communication control register, SCON. Serial control register will be there in this one. About interrupts, two hardware interrupts, this will be generated here. Other than that one, the other interrupts, all signals will be taken care of by this particular block. And one important thing, as I earlier also told you, that to notice that there is a link coming out from these blocks into the port 3. So there is some relation between the port 3 and this interrupts, timers, serial communications. That all we will be checking out. But before going to that one, let us have a look on this side also. Here we are having the program address register, obviously some buffer register. Here PC incrementer and the PC register, program counter, which stores the address of the next instruction to be executed. And there will be an incrementer also for incrementing that PC every time one instruction is executed. So this PC increment will make that PC program counter register incremented by one value every time one instruction execution is completed in the execution unit of this particular 8051. Now, where you will be asking, where is the execution unit? Execution unit is one, and where exactly wherever your ALU is there. So the area of the microcontroller where your ALU operations are going on, that you can call that one as a execution unit. So that will be there. The PC increment will increment upon every instruction executed the value stored in the program counter register such that it points to the next instruction to be executed. Here we have DPTR register. It is called as a data pointer. This generally will be used, taken into use whenever we are having an external data memory connected. So this particular register will hold the address of the external memories. Okay. Here other two registers you can see, the program address register and there the RAM address register. They holds the addresses of the program instructions stored in the ROM, internal ROM 4K, and stores it indicates the or points to the data which is stored in the internal RAM. But whenever you are having an interface of an external memory and external memory data, whenever it is stored, that external memory data is pointed by this particular register, that is called as data pointer. This is one of the 16-bit registers in 8051 DPTR data pointer. Okay, that is all about that architecture diagram of the 8051. Now we will see the pin diagram of 8051 IC. So it's again a 40-pin DIP structure. 40 pins are there. One side 20 pins, another side 20 pins. You can check it. And the name of this IC is 8031/8051. 8031 basically is the earlier model of 8051. Few more modifications were done in 8031 to get your 8051 microcontroller. Anyhow, their pin diagrams and signals are same, so that's why the common name is given there. Okay, here you can see this battery connected. The battery positive terminal is connected to pin number 40, that is VCC, and negative terminal is connected to your pin number 20 here, that is a ground. Another thing in this pin diagram you have to notice is that although we have an internal oscillator inside the 8051, always there is a scope of connecting an external oscillator if we wish into this 8051, and that time that external oscillator, if you wish to connect, that has to be connected between your pin numbers 18 and 19, XTAL1 and XTAL2. Okay, an external crystal oscillator can be connected of a particular frequency of our choice. Generally, that frequency will be around 12 megahertz. What exact frequency will be there, we will talk in our next class. Here you can see the 4 ports of 8051, port 0, port 1, port 2 there, and port 3 here. Now, we say that total 16 address lines are there on 8051. Where exactly there is address lines lies? Address lines are here, AD0 to AD7, then A8 to A15. Anyhow, if you notice 0 to 7, they are AD lines, address and data lines. That means the lower address bus 0 to 7 bits of the address bus, they are time multiplexed with the data bus, similar to the concept time multiplexing that we had in the address data bus of 8086. So here AD0 to AD7, these are the 8-bit data bus also of the 8051, and apart from 8-bit data bus, they act as an lower 8 bits of address bus. The upper 8 bits of the address bus are available here, A8 to A15. So total 16, that is 2 bytes, 16 bits of address bus is there, and an 8 bit of a data bus is there in 8051. So that you can check it out here. And another important thing which I again and again ask you to notice and remember while talking about the architecture diagram is that here in that architecture diagram we have seen that interrupt, serial communication block and timer blocks, the signal was coming out and being connected to this particular port 3. So what exactly the relation is that here port 3 pins has a dual function. They can perform two different sort of functions. So what they are here, you can check it, P3.0 till P3.7. These particular pins will be having a dual functionality, and the functionality is also written there that P30 and P31, they are the least 2 bits of the port 3. They can be used as an IO ports obviously, but if not, if you don't want to use them as an IO port, that time they will be working as an TXD and RXD pins of the serial communications. We have already talked about the TXD and RXD, what they are. They are the dedicated transmission and receiving channels of the serial communication in 8051. Apart from this one, we have talked about 5 interrupts, wait-start interrupts in 8051. Out of that 5 interrupts, 2 interrupts are the external hardware interrupts. That 2 external hardware interrupts are pin number P3.2 and 3, that is pin number 12 and 13, and they are called as interrupt external interrupt 0, external interrupt 1. So these two are the external interrupts. Here, whenever you are working and using your timers and counters, the input for counting operations or will be taken at these two signals, that is your pin number 14 and 15, P34 and P35, T0 and T1. These will be acting as an input for your timers, so timer 0 and timer 1 respectively, in a case when the timers will be used for counting purposes. So counting events, the counting signal has to be given here. The signal which you want to count has to be given corresponding to this particular 2 pins. If you give it the signal of counting to be and at pin number 14, your timer 0 will be counting that signal. Okay, every pulse it will count actually, and pulses you can generate according to the wish and the task event when you want it. Earlier I have given you an example that in a room, if you want to count persons entering in that one, so the number of persons or people entering in the room, you can count it by having a sensor arrangement at the entrance of that room, and every time the person passes through that one, the sensor will generate a signal pulse. That signal pulse can be given at this particular pin 14 or 15. That signal pulses will be counted by the timer 0 or timer 1 according to where exactly you give that particular signal. So the timers can be used as counter, and they count the pulses, and pulses can be generated as in the earlier example I have shown you. Apart from these, and lastly 2 signals, the 2 uppermost bits of the port 3 are your read pin and write pin. These are the system control pins. We know that the read pin indicates that the processor or the device. Here the processor means here the 8051 microcontroller is reading whenever that particular pin number 16 is low, and sorry, the 17 is low, and whenever it is writing, we can see that there will pin number 16 will be low. So reading and writing operations will be indicated on these 2 pins. Apart from the major port pins on this 40 pin structure, you can see out of total 40 pins, 32 pins are these bidirectional IO pins itself. Okay, port 0, port 1, port 2, port 3. So 40 minus 32 remaining are 8. In that 8 also 2 are the power supply pins. Did not to discuss much. Okay, pin number 20 and pin number 40, they are the power supply pins. So now we remain with only 6 pins. 6 pins has to be concentrated much. Out of that 6 pins, you can check it out. Here are the 3 pins available. EA bar, okay, external access, that is called as external access. Pin number 30 is ALE. ALE you know already, address/enable. The use and purpose of address/enable similar what it was there for 8086 processor. Next is our PSEN bar. PSEN bar is called as program store enable. So it is again used in some way for the accessing external program memory. So we'll talk about these 3 signals. Along with these 3 signals, this side also another 3 signals will be having. We'll be having a reset here, pin number 9, and these 2 XTAL pins, which are used for connecting the oscillators externally. These 2 pins are used for connecting an oscillator from external source. A crystal oscillator of any particular frequency can be connected in this manner. Obviously, there should be 2 capacitors also be connected in a complete configuration of how to connect an oscillator. Will be discussed in the next class, and from there we'll talk about this remaining these pins, these 3 here, the reset and XTAL1 and XTAL2 in our next class, and then we will continue see some more details about these IO ports. Okay, our next class will be complete discussion of these different pins of 8051 along with the elaborated view of different ports, and more specifically this port 3 because it has dual functions. Okay, so that will be it for this today's class. See you in the next lecture. Bye.